Renowned Colombian novelist and Nobel Prize winner Gabriel Garcia Marquez is notorious for his use of magical realism in his writing. His writing, mostly comprised of short stories and novellas, aims to showcase the good and bad realities of Latin American society. Through magical realism, he's able to reiterate a sense of Latin American culture while simultaneously criticizing the negative parts of it. Some of his most famous works, The Old Man with the Enormous Wings, The Handsomest Drawn Man, and Chronicle of a Death Foretold, all deal with both the strengths and weaknesses within his communities. In particular, Marquez highlights the ways in which the bourgeoisie maintained power, namely through exploitation of the proletariat. In Marx's theory, the working class is collectively regarded as the proletariat, while the bourgeoisie is the ruling class of society. Exploitation refers to the abusive treatment of someone in order to profit from their work, a means by which power is maintained in capitalist societies. First introduced by Hungarian philosopher George Lukács, false consciousness is a concept about the way of thinking amongst the proletariat that hinders their acknowledging of inequality and their stance in society. In The Old Man with the Enormous Wings, Death Constant Beyond Love, and Chronicle of a Death Foretold, Marquez displays the exploitation of the proletariat through higher figures preserving power.
In Death Constant Beyond Love by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, power is maintained by the upper class through preserving exploitation and false consciousness in political campaigns. The phrase enlarge the crowds implies the need to reinforce the illusion of prosperity, as there's not many people in the village. The readers are firstly introduced to a false environment that is made for the public, establishing deceit amongst those witnessing the political campaign. The word rented portrays the workers as dehumanized and are reduced to objects. They are essentially seen as instruments to maintain the illusion of the campaign, further confirming the presence of false consciousness. This also suggests the rented workers' lack of personal identity, as they were addressed as a collective without a name. They consequently lack a basic human right. In the second quote, the word endure has negative connotations, consequently reflecting the awful working conditions at the time. Yet they still endure due to the belief of upward social mobility, where them being barefoot suggests their lower social standing, in which they endure this treatment due to false ideology of Senator Sanchez representing the working class, whereas in reality he represents the ruling elite of the community. In this description, Marquez actively embodies the concept of false consciousness through physical artifacts, namely the corporal facade that surrounds the campaign, where parallel structures are used to contrast the make-believe houses of red brick and the miserable shacks of real life, in which both words of make-believe and miserable are linked by the alliteration of M. Additionally, red and real are connected by the alliteration of R. The comparison between either realms of illusion in the campaign and realities in the village are blended together, emphasizing the extent of false consciousness among the public, seeing that their reality is based on the cardboard fiction that Senator Sanchez presents. The application of oxymoron is used in the second quote, as it is unlikely to point towards fiction. This signifies the absurdity of public's belief in political figures. This could also be read as a form of social conditioning, where the public is expected to listen and obey to the higher ruling powers. Moreover, it is notable to see that the senator is possessive over his world of fiction, further reinforcing the higher power's dominance over the lower class and initiating a power imbalance. According to Karl Ratner, an American cultural psychologist, he claims that the continuous belief in false consciousness among the public is not due to a lack of information, but a misunderstanding in achieving higher political standing. This concept can be linked in Death Constant Beyond Love, where the villagers of Rosa de Vire follow the illusion created by the senator in pursuit of a higher quality living. This blind faith in the higher powers represents a belief in a falsified democracy that promotes class barriers and exploitation.
In Gabriel Garcia Marquez's The Old Man with Enormous Wings, the ability of the ruling class to maintain autonomy over the working class is depicted through the exploitation of the angel. At the beginning of the story, when Pelayo found the fallen angel, he dragged him and locked him up with the hens in the wire chicken coop, as he and the others in the community tried to figure out what he was. After they started to believe more and more that he is in fact an angel, they decided to fence the yard and charge 5 cents admission to see the angel. However, the only issue with that was that the angel was the only one who took no part in his own act. The use of the words dragged, locked up, wire, and fence all connote violence and imprisonment the angel faced at the hands of Pelayo and Elisanda. The angel is treated like a zoo animal, prisoned next to the hens and the chickens. Added to this, the inferiority the angel is treated with becomes apparent as the author uses words such as 5 cents an admission, connoting a game or show, and alluding to the fact that the angel is nothing more than a tool to profit. The constant demeaning tone and exploitation of the angel reveal Marcus's strategy of using the angel as a representation of the working class, and Pelayo and Elisanda of many upper-class employers, further revealing them to be a microcosm of capitalistic societies. Moreover, saying that the angel was the only one who took no part in his own act highlight the dynamic between the employers and the working class, where the working class immediately becomes puppets to the employers with no right to do or say anything of their own will. As a result, the ruling class are able to always sustain and maintain power over the working class as they use their resources to exploit and silence them in order to always be the ones in control. They are able to extort all of the assets found within the working class and use it in ways that they would not be able to due to their financial and social status. This exactly pertains to Marx's account of exploitation, which is premised on the claim that value created by workers is appropriated by capitalists. But the labor theory of value holds that the value of an object is a function of the labor that it would be currently required to produce it, regardless of how much labor actually went into producing it.
In Gabriel Garcia Marquez's novella Chronicle of a Death Foretold, the ruling class maintains its power through its stance on belonging in social institutions. The town was awoken with the earth-shaking bellow of the bishop's steamboat, and everyone rushed to receive him. The town was too excited with the bishop's visit to worry about any other news. They had set up canoes bedecked with flowers. The bishop arrived with a retinue of Spaniards, and as he left, his boat soaked those who were closest to the edge. He sailed away while mechanically making the sign of the cross, continuing to do so without malice or inspiration. The use of the word earth-shaking referring to the bishop's arrival places a hyperbolic emphasis on his strength and positioning in the town. The bellow of his boat representative of his captivating presence. The people rushed to the docks to receive him, implying the bishop is a gift or a blessing to society that one can receive, further alluding to the hope and expectations the town had of him. The town puts aside their responsibilities and duties to devote their time to the bishop, further reiterating the sense of indoctrination. The way he is followed by a retinue of Spaniards emphasizes his notoriety, but his hypocrisy as well. Rather than being surrounded by the devoted Catholic townspeople, he is surrounding himself with Spaniard aristocrats, characterizing him as pretentious. He is further characterized as a hegemonic figure through the way that he soaks the people below him with his boat, putting him at a physically and societally higher plateau than his people. Additionally, the imagery of the effort and decoration put into his arrival heavily contrasts the outcome in which he does not step foot in the town or do anything for the people. The bishop interacts with the crowd mechanically and without any sort of passion or conviction, contradicting his position in the church. Furthermore, despite his behavior and actions towards the townspeople, the bishop is still put on a pedestal by the people. It is solely his social standing in a religious institution that grants him such a high level of respect, emphasizing the lack of individuality of the townspeople. According to Guardian journalist Brad Chilcott, Christianity has been turned into a selfless religion into a, quote, institution that validated selfishness as blessing and used any power it possessed to maintain its cultural and political ascendancy. Now, the political and religious elite collude to maintain the structural and economic inequalities that are of benefit to them. Moreover, this relates to the characterization of the bishop as pretentious and selfish during his visits, as he didn't provide anything for the town other than an obligatory blessing, yet he is praised. This inequality is of benefit to the bishop because he can maintain his position in the church along with his socioeconomic status. Additionally, after Angena's decision about the house, Bayardo sat with the widower Shius to play a game of dominoes, during which he told Shius that he would buy his house. But the widower defended himself until the end of the game, insisting that it wasn't for sale. Bayardo insisted on the widower and who consistently denied to the weakness of his spirit. 2 months after selling his home, he died. The exchange between Shius and Bayardo is prefaced with a game of dominoes, implying a conflict between the two, further setting a competitive and manipulative mood to the scene. The way in which Bayardo insists that he is already purchasing the house emphasizes the power structure between the widower and Bayardo. Added to this, the widower is said to have a weak spirit, characterizing him to be in a weaker position in comparison to Bayardo, setting the scene for exploitation. Cius defends himself until the end of the game, indicating that the exchange between them is comparable to that of a game or competition. The stylistic choice of the dominoes is comparable to a widower in how he ends up falling to the power of Bayardo, but despite his battle, he still dies. This speaks to the power of the ruling class, that despite Cius standing his ground, he still succumbs to Bayardo's power. Furthermore, it can be said that due to Bayardo's wealth and status in the town, he has the ability to force the man into an unwanted deal that indirectly killed him. Bayardo took advantage of the widower's weak spirit and vulnerability for his own gain. This speaks to the power structures between the upper and lower classes, where the ruling class take advantage of the social inferiority of the impoverished in order to satisfy their own wants and needs.
In conclusion, in his short stories The Old Man with Enormous Wings, Death Constant Beyond Love, and Chronicles of a Death Foretold, Marquez showcases in the ways in which the proletariat are exploited by the ruling class in an effort to maintain power. The ruling class maintain their power in society through exploitation of the proletariat. This exploitation is done by a means of dehumanization, false consciousness, and an abuse of social institutions. Due to our privilege as upper middle class citizens, we have a social obligation to recognize these instances of exploitation in our communities to further do our part in society.